Hey everybody, it is Professor Hatch. I am here to talk about the critical analysis essay prompt. Um, this is the final essay for the semester, so this video doesn't need to be too long. Let me share my screen and sorry for the shaky camera. The desk is, I don't know, whatever. Anyway, let me share my screen and we'll look at this prompt real quick. All right. So, you were being asked to write an essay of no less than 1,200 words that examines the events that take place in Octavia Butler's Parable of the Sower, connects those events to current events taking place in our society, more on that below, evaluates both fictional and real events through the lens of the literary theory of your choice, identifies how doing all of the above elevates our understanding of humankind. So, what does society mean for the purposes of this essay? Society can mean any country on earth. I'm assuming you'll be looking, most of you are going to be looking right here at home in America, but maybe you'll be looking at Canada, I don't know, Italy, Mexico, whatever. Current events can mean any event that has taken place in the last 5 years. If it's older than that, that is not current, and I don't want you to write about it. So the procedure, there's a lot to contemplate just with those four items in the first bullet point list. So I'm just giving you a series of questions to ask yourself before you start writing. Um, the first of those is which event from the novel really resonated with you and why? Which real world event does that remind you of? Why? And which literary theory makes the most sense for analyzing the events? So, like, if this was me, the event that resonates most with me from the novel is kind of early on when there is a garage fire at one of the houses on the cul-de-sac where the main characters live. And everyone gets together to put the fire out. And there's a line in there that says something along the lines of no one would bother calling the fire department for just a garage fire. They couldn't afford the fees or something to that effect. Meaning, when you have a fire and the fire department comes out, you now have to pay for their services, which is not something we currently have to do in this country. And let's hope it stays that way. But as a homeowner, that the thought of that is, you that's why you have homeowners insurance. So like if something horrible happens, then you're covered. But if you can't even afford to call the fire department, I don't know, it's a scary thing. So that's the one that resonates the most with me. Which real world event does that remind me of? Honestly, I would have to do a little bit of research, and I'm not obviously going to do that for this video because I want this to be as short as possible. But I will say, off the top of my head, any number of, I don't know, insurance nightmare stories. You know, oh God, there was a story from 20 years ago about a guy who lost two of his fingers and he was only allowed to have one of them put back on because he couldn't afford the insurance premiums for both. That is a true story, and it's infuriating and terrifying. So, like, that might be an event that this scene reminds me of from the novel. Obviously, that event is not valid because it's like 1,000 years ago. You want to look for something current. But you get the idea. Which literary theory makes the most sense for analyzing these events? In the case of the examples I just provided you, I would say probably Marxist theory. Um, Maybe new historicism would also be a good one. Um, and look at the literary theories handout and look at the questions asked by both Marxist theory and new historicism theory, and you'll have in the process of reading those questions, you'll be able to make your mind up between which of those two would be the better theory to look at these events through, or the better lens through which to look at these events. So anyway, once you've answered those questions, it's time to begin working on your outline. And somewhere between finishing the outline and the rough draft, you're also going to want to ask another couple questions. Specifically, what does all this say about people? And what does it say about the world we live in? Some things to consider while you're answering those two questions are what year the novel was written in, what year the real world event took place in. We know it's current, but was it, this year or 5 years ago? Uh, Here in America, there's a kind of an important difference between this year and 5 years ago, specifically with who's president at whichever year that is, which really affects the way we see our country and the way we move through it. Um, where do these events take place? Who are the people involved? Are they powerful or powerless? Wealthy or poor? What ethnicity are they? What other aspects of their identity might be important to the event that took place? All these are things you can be thinking about when answering the questions, what does this say about people and what does it say about the world we live in? That's not even close to an exhaustive list, so I'm sure you'll be able to think of other questions. This is a 1,200 to 1,500 word essay. Please take those numbers seriously. No less than 12, no more than 15. And the number of paragraphs, honestly, is up to you, but at a minimum, you're going to want to spend at least one paragraph talking about the event from the novel, at least one paragraph talking about your chosen real world event, one paragraph discussing which literary theory is most important or most appropriate, I should say, and why. And then one paragraph at least, maybe two, analyzing your chosen events through the lens of that theory. Honestly, if it's me, I might spend one paragraph looking at the event or events from the novel through that lens, and another paragraph on looking at the real world event through that lens. And all of that is going to be sandwiched by an intro and a conclusion. You should be painfully familiar with all this at this point in the semester, so I'm not going to talk anymore about that. This video, of course, will be right there. Under the requirements, it's all pretty standard stuff at this point. 12 to 1,500 words, works cited page, double spaced. Please, for the love of God, do not send in single spaced essays. It kills my eyes. And because this is the last essay and there's no chance to revise it, a single space essay will be automatically deducted a full grade point. Um, so please don't do that. Allowed sources for this essay are Parable of the Sower, obviously, the Literary Theory and Schools of Criticism handout, and no more than one article from a reliable journalism source. And there's a link there to discuss what a reliable journalism source is. And if you have a question about what that is, obviously text me on Remind and we can talk about it. Probably it'll be fine because I think you pretty much know what a reliable journalism source is. That's three sources total, no other sources allowed. That can be, for a longer essay like this, a bit of a challenge, but that's kind of the point. The point of this essay is to sort of put everything we've looked at over the course of this semester. I mean, I'm not asking you to identify logical fallacies in this essay, but I'm asking you to put together everything you've looked at in terms of literary theory, in terms of how the art that we read informs our opinion of the world, how art can reflect life and life can reflect art, and blah, blah, blah. So that's kind of the point of this. As with every essay you've written, make sure it follows the proper essay structure, make sure it follows MLA guidelines. There's links here in the prompt for you to read. And I think that honestly is everything that needs to be said about this. As you are doubtless familiar with at this point in the semester, you can text me on Remind 24/7. As always, I will answer as soon as possible. If you text me at 3 in the morning, it's probably going to be a few hours, unless I have insomnia, which is not uncommon, I'm afraid to say. That's everything I need to say right now. I'll see you in the outline video. Bye.